So now the next point you say here is challenge your accuser. Do not be afraid to engage in racially charged conversations. What do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, it's just being, you know, courageous and having a backbone. We are all equal, right, in value, dignity, and we all should be treated as such. What happens when you play along with these false claims, and you feel that you need to apologize, and even if you didn't do anything wrong, because you want to save face, you want your company to save face? What happens with this lack of challenge is that it invites, you know more opportunity for it to be done more, right? A few no About a year or so ago, a cricket player, I forgot his name escapes me, but he was Asian, and he accused his whole club, the whole cricket club, and fellow colleagues or fellow players and managers as being racist, with no, you know, concrete proof except for his own testimony. And based on that, he was awarded £200,000, right? But then what did we find out? We found out that most of his claims were unfounded. And secondly, not only that,
Wait,
but he,
wait. So you can be awarded money for just
oh, he was
racism,
awarded
someone
200. Mhm.
by the club?
Yes, by the club, and I think they also reimbursed his legal fees and legal costs. And what really infuriated me about that case was two things. Number one, okay, he was 19 at the time, so he was much younger. He was one of the youngest in the team, and he was actually a captain of the team at one point, right? So it makes me laugh because it's like, well, the woke group need to decide what is more important sometimes, because him being a captain and being, you know, in charge of, and he was the one, or at least one of a very few Asian people in that team, but he was responsible for the whole team, which was predominantly white. So is that institutional racism? Of course not. So what did they settle for? Well, interpersonal racism, and he was called certain names, or I think he said one time they put a banana. I can't really remember the full details of the case. I'm not even going to go there. So I'm thinking, you you had the benefit from this club. They trusted in you, your skills, your integrity, your experience, to put you responsible to have a leading role in the team, and yet you can come here 10 to 15 years later and cry racism and get, you know 200,000, nearly £250,000. And most of the claims are unfounded, but guess what? Those who he accused can't find work. Those who he accused, have to settle with the fact that themselves and their families have been smeared because of it. So, where was the challenge? Where was the backbone from the club? Where was the integrity from the club to say, actually, we are not going to dismiss what you're saying, because we also can't go that far. But hello, let's have a balanced review. They didn't even speak to or interview or cross-examine with those who he accused. 16 people were fired by email based on one man's testimony, and like I was going to mention, we found out that even he himself was someone who um made anti-Semitic comments about Jewish people. So can you see the hypocrisy of it all? Yet, would anything happen to him? No. Would he have to reimburse any of the fees for that? No, of course not. Is he still some kind of a hero and, the face of someone who's brave? Of course he is. Lack of challenge is causing all these frivolous claims to come up. And there are real world consequences of it. It's not just, oh, a mere name calling like many of the courts have determined, and people go on with their day. No, people lose their jobs, like Dominic Moran, and she lost it in a very public way. Her company Chipotle went on Twitter and and exposed that they were going to deal with her publicly, she lost her job. You have people like these cricket players having their families, and their careers messed up. There are real world consequences of this. And when unfounded claims are discovered, nothing absolutely happens. And that's what annoys me.
Wow. Now, I'm going to say that it sucks for someone to be at the receiving end of any racist attack or insult. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good thing. You understand? And when such things genuinely happen, I think action should be taken, and those responsible should face some sort of penalty. You understand? Uh, but on the other hand, when it's just someone's word, there's no verification, and and the organization just reacts based off what one person says, just on the testimony. That organization is not only selfish, the organization itself is racist, because how the hell did they get so many racists in their ranks in the first place? So what's wrong with the culture? So the organization itself needs to be killed, to be cancelled. The organization needs to go bankrupt. It needs to die. It needs to be destroyed, because by doing that, by firing so many people, they have admitted that something was wrong with their recruiting process, something was wrong with their culture. On the other hand, they are throwing their staff under the bus, saying that, you know what, we don't want to have to deal with this. This is your problem. Just, we're not associated with this, and they just let you go. They just drop you off. All that is very, very, very terrible. It's very, very terrible. So such organizations, it's the organizations themselves that should be facing the penalties, not the people that are quote and unquote accused. So there is no due process. There is no course of adjudication where people make their case and say, you know what, maybe this person was being silly. I'm sure there's nobody in this life that hasn't had another group say something insensitive about them. I mean, are we going to keep? Are we going to be keeping scores? Almost every group has had something said about them, but that's just not
Yeah,
minimizing racism. That's just the way life functions. And I have this theory, or I have this the way I look at things is that, you know what, if you are going to be a racist and say dumb racist shit, well, go ahead. I have my mouth too. I can fight back. You understand? Now, where I have a problem is when you deliberately try to discriminate against me. Uh, you understand? Maybe you're trying to stop me from getting something, stop me from having something, stop me from accessing something. So there is an action there. It has transcended words. It has transcended feelings. It has transcended just shady attitudes. You're not putting into action. Now there's a line that you know a line has been crossed that people can actually walk on and hold on to.
yeah. And, speaking about everyone being accused of racism, especially in the past, Black people were not of racism. Let's just talk generally about false accusations that have real world consequences. Black people in the past, especially in the United States, were always accused of doing all sorts of things, and they were innocent. How many people, how many men, especially men, right? Especially men, were killed, were beaten to death, were lynched, just because, again, on the testimony of one person, this Black person did this. And most of the times they were of the most ridiculous things, right? This person didn't call me sir. This person didn't look me in the eye. Maybe they blinked or looked away, and that was enough to be a death sentence for a Black person. So you're exactly right, especially when we talk about the past. Black people themselves have been on the receiving end of this, especially in Southern America, right? And I'm not saying the tables have turned deliberately. I don't know if it's, or I don't believe it's a conscious or deliberate thing. But, now we see that it's easy just to claim someone has done something racist against you, and your whole life, the whole trajectory of your life changes because of that. And it's not just in relation to racism, it's anything else. I think false allegations nowadays, are made on the whim. you know, whether it's sexual, whether it's someone who was racist, whether it's anything else. And there's, you know, the outrage happens and all the stories come out. And when it's found that it's not true, again, nothing, absolutely, absolutely nothing happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we should be very, very careful with the things that we endorse, because you're forgetting that in the past this same attitude was used to haunt black people. I
Mm,
mean, a white woman can just could just come up in the past and say that a certain black man did something to her, and without due process, without trying to find out the testimony of the black man, he would be killed, he would be harassed, he would be beaten, and all that. Yet in this age, we feel comfortable to do that to another set of people. I think
yes.
those group of people should be much more careful, because they should have sort of a history of saying, okay, this is how it works. I mean, we don't want this thing being done to us, so why should we want it to be done to any other person? But it seems that once it favors any group, anything goes. I mean, if it favors my group, I just let it slide.